What's going on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal Spaz Phoenix, the YWC Reality Check, with some very quick, very off-the-cuff remarks about SummerSlam 2014 that just ended about 3 minutes ago. I had a blast. I've got nothing written down other than the order of the matches, so I'm going to go off the cuff, tell you guys what I thought, and then I'm going to go the hell to bed so that I'm not up to ridiculous o'clock in the morning like usual. The pre-show was typical pre-show banter. We had Renee Young, Alex Riley, Booker T, and Ric Flair, who looked, let's be honest, very, very drunk. When they started talking about $9.99, I thought that was the cost of his next drink. The kickoff match that I didn't even know about was RVD versus Cesaro, which was not the Fatal 4-Way tag match that I had heard rumor of and that I spoke about in my collab preview video that I did with OKFabe. I want to take a second to say thank you to OKFabe for joining me in the last video. I'm going to make an effort to get him on here again because he's gotten some positive response so far for the collab that we did. So, Connor, thanks for joining me, man. Hope we have you back on here sooner than later. RVD versus Cesaro was long and kind of uninteresting because RVD doesn't really have direction, and Cesaro fucked somebody's wife because he ain't going anywhere either. They took him away from Heyman to give Heyman back to Lesnar, and he hasn't done anything since, even jobbing, and lost to Kofi Kingston, let's be real. The only thing of note in this match, the only thing that sticks out in my mind of this match is Rob Van Dam hitting a really, really crisp, nice-looking Rolling Thunder on the outside. Other than that, I couldn't tell you much else other than RVD won and Cesaro, sorry about your damn luck. That's all I got. We started off the show with Hulk Hogan shilling the network, which I'm sure made everybody sad. Made all the typical, you know, YWC elite cry because they're going to sit there and they're going to say, $9.99. The crowd in attendance was chanting $9.99. They're having fun with the trolling. Get over it. I mean, Hulk Hogan didn't really serve a purpose other than shilling the network, but, you know, it took up, what, maybe 2 minutes? We have an opening package that is very much like a movie preview trailer type thing, which is cool because they're in LA for the 6th year in a row. We get the announcement later on in the night that next year, 2015 SummerSlam, will be in New York, New Jersey, so we will get a little bit of a break from that. I don't live in the States. I'm not going to be able to go to see it live either way, but every year it's been in LA for the past like 6 years. Give it to some... I'm not even saying bring it up to me, bring it up to Canada, bring it to Toronto. I'm just saying put it somewhere else. Am I wrong? Am I pontificating on this too much or whatever? But I don't... Yeah. It's going to be in New York next year. It's fine. Miz versus Ziggler was a great match. A lot of you can't wrestle chants for the Miz, which is not true at all. The ending sequence was... Ziggler missing a zigzag, getting countered into a skull-crushing finale, him kicking out and coming back and getting a zigzag for the win. Ziggler with the title, great. Miz coming out and doing his Hollywood-type speech and, you know, talking about the moneymaker. The announcers talking about some match that happened 12 years ago with Shawn Michaels and somebody where there was a rule about not hitting each other in the face. I mean, Miz made a joke or a comment about that on SmackDown or on Raw in the past few weeks, and it sounds really dumb, and I don't think we need to bring up references to WWE actually doing something that dumb. It doesn't help anybody. The other reason RVD and Cesaro didn't feel very good, because they spent the entire RVD-Cesaro match talking about Lesnar CENA. Now, I understand that it's the preview, it's designed to make people buy the show, you want to talk about the main event. I have no problem with that, but give some credence to the match. Cesaro is a beast in the ring. RVD, whether you like him or not, has had his place in wrestling history, so you can at least reference that. You can at least reference, hey, Cesaro's tough, but, you know, RVD comes from the land of extreme, or something, even if it's cliche like that, but no, they didn't. Paige versus AJ was another classic. Oh, yes. Anybody knows that I could watch this match 8 days a week and twice on Sundays. Submission, countering. There was a spot that Paige had... AJ was on the apron, and Paige came along outside the ring, got her in in a sort of riding her shoulders, like not a piggyback on the back, but a piggyback on the shoulders type position. Dropped her face first on the guardrail. Match goes along. There's a lot of her trying for the PTO, AJ trying for the Black Widow. AJ got the Black Widow on, and it was countered by brute force and technicality by Paige into that she's calling it the RamPaige, which I think is a great move. But what it is basically, if you picture a, we all know what I mean by a backpack stunner. Now imagine putting somebody in front of you instead of behind you and dropping into a DDT. It's a really, really vicious looking maneuver, and it fit the general vibe of this match. Paige is the champion once again. So this ping pong that AJ and Paige have with the championship, Paige beat AJ for it on Raw. AJ beat Paige for it on Raw. AJ defended it at one pay-per-view. AJ lost it at the next pay-per-view. They're as even as they could possibly be as they fight over this title. Going into next month, going into Night of Champions, I think we're going to see something spectacular. But the ladies, this was one of the best matches of the night. And I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what anybody thinks of me for saying that. This match for the Divas Championship was one of the best matches on this show. Moving on, match that took on a little bit of a weird flavor was Rusev versus Swagger in the flag match, which isn't a flag match anymore. It's a regular match with the stipulation that the winner would have their flag raised at the end, which is fine. Rusev tried to attack Swagger before the match. Swagger locked Rusev in the ankle lock before the match started and fucked up Rusev's ankle. Lana sitting there yelling at the referee, yelling at Rusev, he's fine, get up and fight, get up and fight. And there was a story told throughout this whole match, and I said in my last video, this was going to be two bulls running into each other, but in a technical way. And it was really good. They worked on Swagger's ribs the whole match. They worked on Rusev's foot the whole match, which was cool, because not only when Rusev put the accolade on did it make sense because his ribs had been injured, it wasn't necessarily a guaranteed thing, because his putting the accolade on puts weight on his own injured foot. So the first time he put the accolade on, it was basically a half crab. The second time he put it on, you could see him in pain as well as Swagger, because him putting on the move caused himself just the psychology in this match. As I've said months ago, if you had told me I would be this invested in a Swagger Rusev match or anything involving either of these two guys, I would have laughed at you. But the psychology in this match was absolutely superb. And I mean, we have a hero's loss for Jack Swagger, because he didn't lose. He didn't get pinned. He didn't tap out. He passed out in the accolade because he refused to give up. And with that being said, the Russian flag was waved. The Russian national anthem was sung out. It was very, very much from Rocky IV, I will admit that. But Zeb Coulter tending to Swagger after the match and getting the super kick from Rusev is just... This is only gonna, again, like we said last month at Battleground, this is only gonna move up from here. The match was fantastic. Rusev gets the win. The rivalry is gonna continue. I have no problem with any of this, and everybody played their part. The beginning assault sequence before the match set up the psychology of this match so well, because you had an already existing thing, because he fucked up Rusev's foot early. Swagger already had a rib injury from the flag attack, whether it was this week or last week on Raw. They both had targets. They both worked those targets the whole match. The match, guys, I said this was going to be one of the dark horses of the night, and it was a fantastic match. And that's not an oversell. Lana played her part great, being the cold-hearted bitch that she is. Hey, my guy's injured. Doesn't matter. Throw him in there. He's still going to have the fight. Zeb Coulter, of all people, being the compassionate one, checking on Jack Swagger after the match and getting a foot in the face from the Russian dynamo known as Rusev, is only going to add another layer of emotion to it. And I can't wait to see where this goes from here. Ambrose versus Rollins, the lumberjack match, which everybody was bitching and moaning about. But these guys proved that you can have a pretty fantastic lumberjack match, because the mentality was, have a lumberjack match. The lumberjacks will keep everybody in the ring, because the lumberjacks have no love lost for either guy. And it was proven. Throw Rollins out. He got the shit kicked out of him and thrown back in the ring. Throw Ambrose out. He was the one throwing the first punch at the lumberjacks. Fantastic. They brawled through the lumberjacks. They splashed into the lumberjacks. They suplexed each other into the lumberjacks. Made it past the lumberjacks into the crowd. all of you who were bitching about a hardcore match, or a false count anywhere match, or whatever, you had that. They brawled all the way around the arena, and the brawl was so effective that Kane actually came out and yelled at the Lumberjacks, begging them practically to bring them back to the ring. So you had brawling, you had what looked like it was going to be a powerbomb from the mezzanine of the bleachers, which obviously wouldn't have happened because it would have killed somebody, but the inference was there, the implication was there, and it could have been great. You had Rollins squaring off with Sin Cara at some point. Rollins trying to escape and being cut off by the Usos and Stardust, who were all like posed all weird because they're, you know, with Stardust. They get thrown back in the ring. Everybody gets in the ring. Kane comes into the ring and tries to stop the match, or tries to help Rollins, and of all people, Goldust steps right up into the ring and says, "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Kane and Goldust start brawling, which brings everybody else in. Rollins trying to escape once again. Ambrose is left alone in the ring with the Wyatts, who get knocked out, and at the very last second, Rollins, with the Money in the Bank briefcase and the help from Kane and the distraction of the Lumberjacks, gets the very, very, you know, quote-unquote cheap victory, which is, again, going to progress this thing further. We're going into Night of Champions. You want another match that has to do with the championship? Put these guys in the ring, again, with a ladder, going for the briefcase. That's your match at Night of Champions. If they don't do it, WWE are fucking idiots. Moving on. So Rollins gets the win. Rollins gets the cheap heel victory, taking advantage of his briefcase, taking advantage of the authority help from Kane, taking advantage of the Lumberjacks that were put in place by Ambrose. The story perpetuates itself. Ambrose is crazy. He thought he had a foolproof plan, but his own plan blew up back in his face, because ultimately the Wyatts, who were two of the Lumberjacks that Ambrose put there, cost him the match, along with the briefcase and Kane and such and such. Fantastic match for what it was. I knew this was going to be a plot device going forward, and if they have a ladder match at Night of Champions, I'll be a happy kid. Wyatt versus Jericho was awesome from the get-go. We knew it was going to be great because the Wyatts weren't with Bray Wyatt for this match, so Bray Wyatt was really going to show something good. Springboard move by Jericho across the corner into Wyatt, off the apron to the floor, was really nice. When they made their entrances, Jericho's got the Jericho countdown incorporated into his entrance again, which is a minor thing, but it's cool. For those of us that have been watching Jericho for a long time, the countdown was a big thing. Bray Wyatt coming out with a butcher's smock on to start the match, that just set the tone for the match a little bit, didn't it? These guys look good. These guys, you know, Jericho getting the upper hand a lot of times. Jericho being really freaked out by the spider walk plays into the psychology of the match. Bray Wyatt catching Jericho on the outside, sending him into the guardrail face first with a Sister Abigail, as a precursor to the Sister Abigail in the ring and the ultimate victory, was fantastic. Those of you that were pissed off that he didn't get the victory in the minor pay-per-view last month, he went to the major pay-per-view with no help, no excuses for Jericho, and got a very, very strong-looking victory. Now, is this the end? Who knows? It could be Bray Wyatt has now been put over and made to look incredibly strong and moves on to something else, and Jericho moves on to something else. Or we could have this perpetuate into Night of Champions with some sort of title ramifications at the end of the tunnel. Somebody suggested Wyatt versus Lesnar. I don't know how that would be functional at this point, considering what happened later in the show, but it is an intriguing thought. It is an intriguing thought to think of Bray Wyatt trying to play mind games with Paul Heyman. Yeah, Bray Wyatt, Paul Heyman on the mic. Yeah. So that was great. Stephanie versus Brie, everybody thought was going to be a big old clusterfuck. Stephanie, for not wrestling in 20 years or in 10 years and not being a real wrestler anyways, put on a decent wrestling match for the most part. Came out looking like 50 Shades of Stephanie with a dominatrix outfit on, which I'm never going to complain about. Brie came out, you know, not looking too bad herself. They had a decent wrestling match for a long period of time until you hear the boos from the crowd and you see Triple H at the ringside, and Brie hit a drop kick inside of the ring to the outside of the ring to Triple H that he sold on the outside. That was fantastic. But Triple H pulls out the referee. I'm getting that backwards, aren't I? Triple H pulled out the referee, then got the dropkick from Brie, which put him down. Then Nikki came down. The Bellas, because there's no referee in play, surrounded Stephanie, and it's like they're going to do a double team. Nikki grabs Stephanie, and was like, oh yeah, she's finally going to get the punch she wants. Pushes Stephanie out of the way, clocks Brie. Oh yes. Oh yes. Obviously Stephanie gets the win after a pedigree. Triple H and Stephanie make out in the ring. Nikki Bella is kind of looking possessed at the side, like, I don't know whether she's doing a vindictive thing or whether she's trying to pull off what the hell did I just do thing, because her face really wasn't that expressive. But ultimately, we're now going to have Bella versus Bella. This is how it's going to be. Funny part in the match was after that dropkick, Brie Bella actually standing triumphant over Triple H. Yes, chance and such and such. But as much as people thought this was going to be a spectacle, this was a better wrestling match than I thought we were going to get out of Stephanie McMahon. I can't overstate that enough. But now we have Stephanie's probably not going to wrestle again. Nikki Bella is going to be the authority's girl, I guess, and go up against Brie until we get Brian back and we can get that back up and going. I think this pretty much cements the fact that they're not going to acknowledge Nikki and CENA being a couple on Raw, because now Nikki is aligned with the authority. Unless they're going to have some sort of fallout between Nikki and CENA over her going heel. But I don't see that happening because he's got other things on his plate. Great match. Roman versus Orton was really, really forgettable. The predictable spear, the predictable pin, got Roman Reigns the victory, and I like both of these guys. I wish I could say more about this match, but there wasn't much. It wasn't bad by any stretch of the imagination. There just wasn't anything great about it. How about that? Roman gets the win, which is fine. He's the one that needs it. Moving on. CENA versus Lesnar. Started with a little bit of a brawl and an F5 30 seconds into the match. Then we saw a couple minutes, maybe 5 or so minutes, of John Cena getting suplexed. And suplexed. And suplexed. And suplexed. And suplexed. And when he was down, he got ragdolled, he got pounded down, he got his ribs worked over a lot. Because he's Cena, in the middle of the match, popped up after having his ribs and midsection worked on for a long-ass time, after being suplexed over and over and over again. Of course, with somebody with a mangled midsection like that can still pull off an AA. Fuck off, Cena. But more suplexes. Rolling suplexes. Three Amigo type Benoit suplexes. Cena, out of desperation, tries to lock in the STF. Doesn't work. Lesnar rolls right out of it, beats him down some more. The third, I believe, FU, gets rid of Cena for us. And I am a happy kid. Oh yes. Oh yes. They said there's got to be more, because unless you're counting the rolling suplexes as one suplex, they said at the end of the match that Cena was suplexed 16 times. He was German suplexed way more than 16 times. The different part about this entire show was that they actually had a German announce table along with the English and the Spanish. I really would have loved to see just once John Cena get German suplexed to the German announce table, but that didn't happen. Cena got fucking ragdolled, and I think the quote of the night was at the end when JBL was talking about how dominant a victory it was, and Michael Cole just said it wasn't even close. And that pretty much sums it up. It was brutal. It was the slow motion decimation of John Cena. It was everything that any wrestling fan whose balls have dropped wanted. This was a fantastic fucking pay-per-view. This is a pay-per-view that makes me look forward to Raw tomorrow. This is a pay-per-view that makes me look forward to Night of Champions. This is a pay-per-view that makes me look forward to Survivor Series and the new year and where we're going for WrestleMania 31. Yes, I'm not exaggerating. This pay-per-view was win at all costs. You know, putting out a shitty pay-per-view wasn't an option, and WWE hit it on all cylinders. I'm losing my voice and I'm kind of tired because I've had a busy weekend, so I'm not expressing myself very animatedly right now, and I'm sorry for that, but this pay-per-view was fucking phenomenal. Anyways, I'm going to stop rambling now and probably go to bed. But tell me what you thought of SummerSlam down in the box below. I've been Spaz, your YWC Reality Check. Subscribe up there, talk down there, start a conversation, keep all these conversations going. What do you think's going to happen on Raw tomorrow night? What did you think of the show tonight? Don't be a stranger. I'll talk to each and every last one of you. But for right now, I'm tagging out, guys. Bye.
You're a freak like me.